Good morning, everybody. This is Danny speaking. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for joining our first of many more to come webinars. So today, the idea of these series of webinars is to keep you up to date on the latest functionalities and innovations that the Maxing solution is undergoing. These will be a 45 minutes long webinars. You can find them on our LinkedIn page to join when they are scheduled. We have plenty of people connected today. We're very delighted for that. Don't hesitate to ask your questions during the session. You have a place to write them down. We will look at them while we present and try to answer most of them, if not all of them. The answers will either be during the presentation, or sometimes we will stop to discuss this question if we feel it's relevant for everybody. If we don't answer your questions, please send them through email. We really would like to know your thoughts and your questions and help you on getting the answers. So yeah, and please know that once the webinar is over, you will be redirected to a survey page. Let us know how it went, where we should improve. It's the first one, so I'm sure there will be plenty of room for improvement. So yeah, so let's start. For today's session, we have Etienne and Stéphane. They will be your hosts. Etienne will be talking about social media and how Maxing can help you leverage your customer experience through the social media. And Stéphane will go through the integration with Google Data Studio for visualizing your data and keeping track of your KPIs. Before I hand the mic to them, I would like to introduce Maxing for those who don't know us yet. So Maxing is a loyalty and promotion software editor since 2008. We help customers around the world to have an attractive, omni-channel, real-time loyalty program. Today's focus will be on social media with a main focus on Instagram and Facebook. So it will be very interesting, I think, to go through these functionalities. And I would like to take a few moments to welcome aboard some of our new customers and to thank those who have extended their trust in us. So first of all, I would like to thank Marjan Holding, the Marjan company in Morocco, one of the leader in their region on the supermarkets and hypermarkets on food retail. They trusted us for launching one of the first, if not the first, retail loyalty program, which is going very well, and I would like to thank them for their trust. I would like to thank also AMPM and La Redoute for extending their trust in us and renewing their contracts for a multi-year, multi-countries contract. So we are very proud of that. And of course, one of the latest to join us is Salsa Jeans. Welcome to the family. We're very proud to have you as one of our customers. I hope this session, you will enjoy it. And please keep these questions coming. We will be glad to answer them. So let me now introduce you to Etienne, who will be doing the social media part. Etienne, it's up to you.
So hi everyone. So here, as Danny explained, so I will explain the new features of social media in Maxing. So this will be an introduction about how to use social media in your loyalty program. So with details about what we can offer in terms of new features in Maxing and how to use it in order to enhance your loyalty program, perhaps just sometimes count the interactions, perhaps combine offers with social interaction and purchases. I will try to detail that. First of all, when we're talking about loyalty, we have lots of figures which are coming and that you can find everywhere on the web, talking about loyalty program effectiveness. So we have figures like how it is, how much does it cost to get new customers and to retain existing customers. But if we have a more detailed look at what happened with social media in the last years, we can realize that social media obviously are used for brands to publish some content to their customers or their prospects, in a sense, to try to target more customers, try to publish more information. But when we ask people about what they feel about content on social media, what we know is that 50% of consumers find that the user-generated content, so basically content which is not coming from the brand, are more memorable than brand-produced content. So obviously, as a brand, when you publish content on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or any other social media network, the quality of the content is good. The quality of the content is better than what a end user can do. But if you want to address, or if you want to be addressed as an end user, as a consumer by content, it's generally really interesting to see what the other users are feeling about your brand, about your product. Okay, so as a first summary about this, so brand content is really important, but one of the main thing you have to do is to encourage and to try to make your user talking about you, talking about your product. And here I'm talking about 50% of consumers that find user-generated content more memorable. But if you have a look at another figure, here we can see that 92% of consumers trust content coming from their network, basically, coming from friends and family. So basically coming from people they know. So it's really like a kind of referral you can imagine in terms of loyalty program when you have in your general program something about please invite your friends to join the loyalty program in order to get some rewards, some benefits or whatever. But here we're talking about just user or consumer publishing content, and this content will really be effective on their network. So here's another example of the importance of rewarding your consumer for being an advocate of the brand. Talking about interactions that can be used in marketing specifically, obviously, what we've had here in the last version of marketing is the ability to basically to connect social accounts to your loyalty account. Basically, connecting a social account means nothing more than linking a Facebook and Instagram account to a loyalty account. What you probably have today, or what you will have in the future, or what you can find today on other brands, is the ability to log in with your Facebook account to an e-commerce website. So this process is exactly what is needed to connect a social account, so here a Facebook account, to your loyalty account. So with this in mind, this means that, okay, you need to obviously to get your loyalty members to connect their accounts to to your loyalty program. So then all the interaction they will do will be checked and triggered by Maxing in order to be able to reward them, or at least to track the interaction they're doing. So then once this is done, basic interactions like post, making some comments, mentioning the brand on the page, just do a like, and as you probably know, there are different type of likes. You can like, love, etc., and you can even obviously trigger the negative reactions if some of the user are sad or feel angry about one of your post or product. But that's the truth about social network. You will get some positive interaction, but also a negative one. The information you need to keep in mind in terms of interaction between social media and Maxing is that we will get all of this interaction. Then it's up to you as a brand, as marketing user, to define what to do with these interactions. So do you just want to track the number of likes? And then depending on that, you want to classify, you want to categorize, you want to segment your customer depending on their activity on social media. So, and then you can imagine having badges to say, okay, this category of customer which are doing more than 20 likes per month can be considered as ambassador, or can be considered as just talker about the solution. And then being categorized, you can just use some dedicated offers for them, and then perhaps also reward them directly for being a good relay for your communication on social networks. Here, the focus is on social, but do not forget that you can imagine many other interactions that can be sent to Maxing. So profile information like birthday or whatever, opt-in, or reviews if you have the ability to leave review on your e-commerce website. So leaving reviews can, which are not directly connected to social, but leaving review on an e-commerce website can also be used in Maxing if you send us the information, if you send us the trigger. Okay. So quickly, if we talk about a very simple example about the process. So imagine you are you have a user on Facebook connected and linked to your loyalty program. So his interaction, so here a like, for instance, will be sent to the Maxing engine through the Maxing social features. And then, as I said, the rewards you will giving to this user, or the tracking of information you will make, will depend on the rules you have defined in the Maxing engine. Okay, let's talk about a more detailed example. So as I said, you can just track the information and then segment your audience and your consumer depending on their on the level of interaction they have on Facebook, Instagram. But here, let's say, imagine a case where you want to reward a specific target because they have they have already purchased 10 times, or perhaps because they are in the millionaires category, because they are active already on the social network. You imagine the target you want. So this is part of the Maxing engine you already know for those who are customers. Then once you have the target defined, you say, okay, when they buy a specific product, so in my example, in the following example, it will be a pair of jeans, we can add on the receipt here for POS transaction, or we can add on the screen for e-commerce transaction a message to encourage them to do some Facebook interaction. So just comment a post or like a post here in my example. So if they do that, so they go to Facebook on their mobile or yeah, in their mobile app, for instance, they will actually receive a coupon in my example, but as I said, it can be any type of reward we manage. So cashback, points, or miles, or whatever how you name it. So basically, it's always a matter of offer management in Maxi. So you're defining transaction parameter, you're defining social interaction to trigger, and then you're defining here that you will deliver a coupon if a user does the two interaction. Okay, so let's go to a quick demo for that. So here I'm using the Maxing simulator for e-commerce. So I've prepared for the demo that I can use here. In my example, yes, 2 pairs of jeans. Okay, and obviously, if I'm going to my basket, so I have my 2 pairs of jeans. One is discounted. Okay, there is a 20% discount for that. Yes, 20% because it's the new collection. That's good. So I'm just paying for that. I have nothing more to define, but this is my first purchase. Okay, I will pay by American Express and proceed the payment. So obviously, as you may know if you already are customers, so we are counting and tracking information. But here we also put a specific message on the screen saying, okay, if you go on Facebook and like any of our posts, then you will receive a specific bonus. So here I will go to Facebook and do this. So just keep in mind that, as I said, all the interactions are made on Facebook. You can select as a trigger criteria, so any of the posts or a specific post. So if it's a kind of challenge, a kind of specific keywords you want to define in a post, in a dedicated post, you can also do it because we will receive the post information. And then this means that here I have several posts, but I will use the one here. So what do you think about the new collection? So here, because I'm authenticated, sorry, with my Facebook account. So if I do a like, in my case, this means that Maxine will receive this trigger. There is obviously a configuration to be made on Facebook just to connect Facebook to Maxing, but this is quite a simple process in terms of configuration. And this means that interactions will be received, so like, comment, share, or mentions, and then depending on the rules, we will apply the corresponding offers for that. So in my case, I was here saying that if my customer is doing first the purchase, then Facebook interaction, it will receive coupon. So here it is. So just a refresh, because as you all know, I mean, we really focus on real-time interaction. So obviously, when we're talking about social media, we also talk about real-time integration. So this means that doing that, I have my rewards, but obviously, and for that, I will use one of the connector we have, so with Salesforce, just to update information about customer in an external CRM so that you can really identify the information we can share to your databases. So here, my example, I know that Mr. John Blue has made different type of purchase, has made here 3 posts because he has a specific number of points. I mean, he's now in a ivory level in my program, but I also have, I'm also using a social tiering. So here, because it's, for instance, he has less than 20 posts, then he's only a talker, but then you can imagine obviously any tiering with the naming convention you want. If we have a look at the vouchers, so again, my alteration 3, which is my offer in my for this Facebook offer, I have my transactions, obviously. So the last transaction made with my 2 pair of jeans with my rewards, my 20% rewards are there. Okay, so basically, what we wanted to say about this new social features today are the following. So you can interact with your consumer using Facebook, Instagram to get the behavior of your consumer, so how they feel about your product. So just use then this information to qualify them, so to give them some points, to give them some cashback, or only to segment your audience with social media information. And you can also combine, and this will be one of the main strengths of Maxing here, combine purchases, combine interactions in order to really engage your customer in an omni-channel process. So reward them for in-store, for e-commerce, for mobile app interaction, and obviously for social media. Okay. I will now move back to Maxing, where we have also obviously the same type of information. So in my movement, I will be able to get all this insight about this John Blue consumer, so my cashback, my posts, more details, etc., etc. And then we will now see how to use this KPIs, this information we have about one customer in a more global view. And then for that, I will give the screen to Stéphane, who will talk about dashboards and the Google Data Studio integration.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Etienne, for the social demo. So we just saw with Etienne the interactions on an individual point of view. So as you can see on the screen, we have all the values, the balances of the counters and the KPIs we are using to collect for the consumers interacting with Maxing and the social medias. And that gives me the opportunity to give you a more global view of all of this, because as you can see here on the screen, you have the values for a consumer, and the goal of my presentation today is to explain you how you can use all this data that we are aggregating within the Maxing database in order to have computing regarding the KPIs and the metrics around the behavior and the interactions of your customers on the solution. So for that, I will use Google Data Studio and the interactions we have created with it. So I need to find the accurate tab, obviously. So what I am displaying here on the screen is the result of the integration of what we call the Maxing connectors with Data Studio. And as you can notice it's already integrated within Maxing. So here I'm using a web browser and connected to Maxing, and within Maxing, thanks to the last plugins we have created and implemented within the solution, we can directly have the Google Studio data and dashboards displayed within the GUI. So in order to continue on the same subject that was covered by Etienne, I have created a dashboard for today in order to display everything related to social KPI and the behavior of the individuals within your brand when you are using Maxing. So for instance, here you will have on the screen a sample of all the counters and KPIs that we have tracked. So you can see here that we have the balance for instance, the social points, the web purchases, and so on. So you can see here that it's not focused on the social stuff. But if I show you the other part of the dashboard, you will see that I have made a focus on the social interactions. So this will help you to, for instance, here on the screen, see the distribution and the qualifications of the likes that were performed by your individuals on the social networks. So for instance, I have calculated the percentages and the distribution of the different likes that have been done on the network. If we focus on the behavior, because it's quite important to understand the behavior of the other customers when they did the interactions and how and why. We are focused on two KPIs, which are the likes and the posts on Facebook. So in order to do that, we have made some filters on the data that we are grabbing from the aggregated data that we are hosting in the Maxing instances. And here you can see that we have the interactions with specific dates. And that's a feature of Google Data Studio. Each time you are putting your mouse on a value, it will display the both KPIs and their values. So here we have the value on the month of January for your Facebook interactions, the likes and the comments. And we can also do that within Google Data Studio with the drill down features. And it could be quite interesting because for your end users or marketing users or whatever, you can use this drill down in order to focus on the data and have the distribution of this data on time. So I will explain this by just selecting for this 2020 year. I will here do the details for the likes, for instance. And we have here the distribution on January now. And then if I do a drill down on January, I will have the details for the everyday interactions that were performed on the social media, which is Facebook. And here I have the distribution of the likes and posts for each day that I have data for the month January. So that's a functionality that I like very much within Google Data Studio, which is the implementation of the drill down. In order to also analyze the behavior of the consumers and individuals, you can also use the type of consumers and accounts that you have within Maxing in order to categorize them and have the distribution between the loyalty users and social users. As Etienne was explaining, you can associate the account to a social media. We do this with simple mechanics within Maxing, which is adding a type of card. And so you can use this attribute within the database of Maxing in order to categorize them. So as you could see here on my screen, I have not so much social users. I only have 3, but because it's my showroom environment that I am using. But anyway, you can imagine quite easily that you can see the distribution. And talking about the behavior, I think that this one is quite interesting because I try to sum up here on the screen and mix some social and behavior KPIs. So for instance, on the left part of the screen, you will see the distribution of the points that were made for the consumers that have interacted with the brand by purchasing stuff. So you could say that you, depending on the mechanics that you have used into your program, that you have distributed more than 456 points to the people who have purchased something, and 514 points to the people that have interacted with your brand on the social media. So that gives you an idea. It's mostly for the marketing people to have a view of the distribution of points and the generosity that you have proven to your consumers. One also thing that is quite interesting regarding the KPIs that you can have within Maxing is the distribution of the purchases depending on the channel. And something that I also like in Google Data Studio is that you can have some indicators for the comparison with the previous period that you have set into the dashboard. So here we are focusing on January, and the values that I have here as scorecard gave me the comparison with December. So I know that in stores I have more than 1,000K purchased, and on the web only 300 and something. But I can see directly here at a glance the comparison with the previous month. And because we are still talking about behavior, you can see here that I have done a selection on the type of likes that were performed on the Facebook channel. So here you can count the likes, the loves, and the wow, and that gives you the, let's say, the mood of your individuals on the network channels. The last thing that I would like to show you is that we are using and experiencing the basic features of Google Data Studio, but we can also use the plugins that are published by the community. So that means that your dashboards can be fully customizable. And here from this, for instance, I have used the heat map in order to categorize and distribute the values of the counters on a square, and that gives you the area of the counter represented as an area. So that's quite a nice one. And the last thing that I would like to show you on that screen before we go on the other ones is the capability of giving the data to your end users, and they can use the functionalities that are embedded within Google Data Studio in order to download them as a sheet in Google Sheet, for instance, or into a CSV or an Excel file. But if we are talking about Google Data Studio and the values that we can display and use and all the aggregation made by Maxing, we can also use other KPIs and other things that I would like to show you. And for instance, let me give you some examples. The first one will be to give you the capability to analyze at a glance the population of your customers, in order to know how many accounts you have, how many are active or deactivated, and categorized by the accounts, the customer, and the cards. So that's KPIs that we are aggregating and computing every day on our instances, and that can use in order to implement them in your own dashboards. So at a glance here, I know how many accounts I have, how many are active, and how many are deactivated. You can also use the data that we give to access to our customers in order to analyze the sales, for instance, by store, why not, and have some graphics that can be represented as histograms. So here I have the sales on the month of January for all my stores, and you can focus maybe on a dedicated KPI. And let me give you an example of this. You can, for instance, track the number of visits during a specific month or a specific period. And again, you can see when you're pointing with the mouse on a specific spot, you will have the value displayed. I have also made this one for you in order to show you that you can obviously graph more than one series, and you can here analyze the sales and the discount that you have made on the month of January. So that gives you an idea of how you are distributing your generosity to your consumers, depending on the sales that you are performing during a period. Another thing that is quite interesting could be to analyze the average basket regarding the generosity you are distributing. So this is another one that I have created for you. And The last one for the marketing users and maybe the ones that want to analyze the KPIs that we provide is to have the distribution of the sales and discount during that same period. Okay, another thing also that you can see that it's very easy to implement within Google Data Studio is just to use the KPIs that are already calculated in order to display at a glance the cumulative sales, the number of visits, and the discount that you have performed during the month. And the last one that I would like to show you in order to move on this is something that is asked by many of our customers and consumers is to add the coupon distribution. So here for you, I am just displaying for the demo purposes on the last quarter the distribution of coupons that we have made depending on the offers. So yeah, basically they are in French, but trust me, they are the offers that are issuing and where you can burn some coupons. And what is interesting is that you can see here at a glance on the same period the number of coupons that were used, so that were issued, that they burn, and what was the immediate discount that you have distributed. Okay, so I think that now regarding Google Data Studio, I have to explain and show you at a glance what is behind the scenes. So I have just a slide for this in order to explain the architecture. So I won't go in too much details for this, but just to explain you what we did today with Etienne and what I have used in order to show you the interactions with Google Data Studio. We are using one instance, which is our showroom instance here in the cloud. We are using some dedicated web services. So everything that I did today is completely something that you can completely do with your own instances using our APIs. You just need to create what we call the data source, which is using the Maxing connector for Google Data Studio that we have developed especially for that. So you will design basically your requests to the database, to the Maxing database. And once this is done, you just have to create your own dashboards that will use as input the data sources connected to the Maxing instances. The last thing that I would like to add for that is that we already have published, if you are interested, the online documentation for the how-tos in order to create this feature and how to interact with Google Data Studio.
Yes. So back to Etienne. So here's what we wanted to explain about new features we have now. I mean, at the beginning of this new year at Maxing. So basically, with a real focus on social and the Global Data Studio. Obviously, do not hesitate to contact us directly if you want more information. The idea of this webinar was not to explain everything or to do a very detailed functional or technical webinar, but this kind of webinar will probably come in the next weeks. For now, I will just go through the different questions we received during the webinar, and I will first address the one concerning social. One interesting question was, how do I control or limit the number of likes or interactions made on Facebook? So basically, what we have, as I said, is we are triggered every time there is an interaction on Facebook. So if you want to prevent, so that's sorry. It is how I am understanding the question is, how do I limit the rewards depending on the likes, just to prevent someone liking, etc. All the posts. So there are different ways to do it. So first, you can just count and limit the number of likes in the offers. So for instance, you want to limit the number of likes at 5 per days or at 30 per month, for instance. So this is just a counter with an expiration date, so daily counter or monthly counter in my examples. So this is one of the first answer. And another one is to also consider the unlike or the change in a comment or the deletion of a comment, for instance, on the branch page. So basically, I told you that we are receiving the like, but we are also receiving the unlike. So let's imagine you are counting the number of likes for John Blue. So John Blue is liking a post, so +1. If you want to define a rule where if John Blue is unliking this post, you will create a rule to say, okay, when we receive a non-like, then we remove 1 to this same counter. So with that, you're sure to be clear with the number of interaction and the quality of interaction you have. Another question regarding social is about the cost. So I will let. Oh yeah, I will answer that. Then he's leaving me the phone. So basically, as you may know, I hope. So now we have really in SaaS mode. So we are in a constant evolution of the product with the different version available automatically and regularly. So this means that when we add some new features like social here, but any other features that will come in the next months or years, they are available immediately at no cost, because what we do is we are pricing the solution depending on the number of calls you're making. So the more you're using the product, the more you're calling Maxing, so the more we are used, and then we are counting this in order to price and calculate the price of Maxing. So no direct cost for social media, for instance, but the interaction will count into your number of monthly cost generally of Maxing. So perhaps it will not cost you anything depending on numbers, but it will can cost a bit depending on how you use social. Next, I have questions about dashboards, and the question is, and I will let Stefan answer, do you support other solutions than Google Data Studio?
At this time, we are supporting currently the solution with Google. We did the implementation with Google Data Studio, but as I explained during the demo, everything is performed using APIs. So I will just re-explain that we have created a dedicated API that is in charge of requesting the data. So in order to make something like I could say sexy and quite quick and efficient, I used Google Data Studio, but you just have to understand that as we are using APIs, you can connect this to any other type of solution that can handle an API exchanges and API labels. And I can also see, because thanks to Etienne, I have the phone. Can we create another question? Can we create our own dashboards, or are we limited to the ones presented? The thing I have demonstrated today is a sample. That's what we call templates that we can deliver to our consumers that are interested working with Google Data Studio. So we will transfer you the ownership of those templates, and you can do whatever you want. You can modify them, change the rules, change the filters, and create your own dashboards from scratch.
Okay, thank you everybody. This is back Danny at it. We are over the time, so thank you very much for being here, for being here, for listening to us. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope we answered all of your questions. If not, please reach out directly to us for a more personalized demo, more in-depth questions, technical, functional. Again, as Etienne said, this is just an overview. We will have in the upcoming weeks some more in-depth technical webinars on the different teams. So please take a few minutes to answer those 3 or 5 questions that we have in the survey that would allow us to improve and to propose some webinars that are fitting your needs. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for being here, and we stay at your disposal. Have a nice day.